I used to have some idea or some notion that I was destined to be some sort of spiritual teacher or guru or something like that. And I can't help but literally laugh out loud at that notion at this point. And just how misguided that was, and that was coming from a place of an identity, having a very conceptual, intellectual understanding of what I thought my ideas about awakening and enlightenment. And that's not it at all. And how can you teach somebody to be what they already are? The notion is silly. So what has been very alive here recently is the notion of emptiness. And it's very sexy in non-duality to talk about emptiness. Ooh, emptiness, you're empty. There's no person here. There's no one here. So sexy, so alluring, so exotic. I love that word, exotic. But that's... when it actually happens, it does not feel sexy. Like when it's actually seen and it's not just an intellectual or conceptual idea. When it actually happens, it's not sexy at all. And there is such a great opportunity for hubris, for humility in this process. I actually just realized I don't remember exactly what the word hubris means. I can't remember if it's arrogance or humility. So we'll just use humility since I can't remember right now. But there's such a great opportunity for humility as this unfolds. You know, just within the last probably 7 months, I've like really had to, it was hard. This was really hard to admit because Henry and I, like over the last, I guess, year prior to that, had been recording podcasts about this stuff and talking about it. And I actually like had to admit inside myself that I don't actually know what it means to be empty, what it means for there to not be someone here. That was really hard to admit. And it kind of seemed like that was the moment that it opened, you know, that it really started to open when I, like, in earnest was able to admit that inside of myself, that I know the concept of emptiness. I know the concept of no person and no doer and all the fancy, sexy terms that people in non-duality talk about. I had an idea of what it was, but I had to be honest with myself and say, like, I don't actually know the lived experience of feeling empty. I don't know that. I don't live that. That was hard. And so then when like the emptiness actually opens, when it's actually seen that what's underneath that push-pull, that like egoic push-pull energy, the desire and aversion, the grasping and resistance, what's actually underneath all of that energy, all those identifications, is a black hole inside of you. It's literally a black hole. It is horrifying, or it was horrifying here. There's like simultaneously like a deep sense of relief, like such a relief that none of that was actually necessary. It was such a relief, but it was horrifying, you know? And there was such deep grief in it. There was such deep grief. And so there's this way, and I can only speak from personal experience here. I've at least learned enough at this point not to talk about things that haven't opened here. So I don't claim to be some sort of like fully realized being or a teacher. I have no notion that, you know, I've also had to admit that like I have no business guiding anybody in this, at least. I don't know that I ever will or that it'll ever arise, but if it does, it'll happen naturally. It won't be because I put some button on my website about scheduling a one-on-one meeting. It won't be because of that. It'll naturally occur, you know. And I'm just trusting that and having enough humility here to know that if I were to do that at this point, it would be the blind leading the blind. Having enough humility to admit that. That was a big step. That was a big defeat. Maybe a better word, a big defeat. So there's like this opening of emptiness. And just like, not just thinking that I'm emptiness or that there's nobody here, but it's like feeling it in the body. That what I am, in truth, is empty. It is emptiness. It is a black hole. A big black hole. A big void. I was coming back to that over and over and over and over and over. Just like come back to the emptiness. Come back to the emptiness. Get pulled by a thought over here. Come back to the emptiness. Come back to the emptiness. Come back to the emptiness. And then what's you know started happening, which was, I guess, kind of surprising, but I don't know that anything like that things real like I guess things do surprise me, but it's just there's just kind of this flow and moving with things lately. But the emptiness started kind of like enveloping the external world, you know. So it's like opening the eyes, and it's like, yes, there's these beautiful leaves dancing and in the sun, like this sparkle on the leaves right now in the sun. There's a butterfly flittering by. There's a puppy who's dragging her bed around. There's a cat sleeping at my feet. There's birds flying. There's movement. But it's even in that feeling, sensing the emptiness, the silence. Like it's sensed in all of it. It's known in all of it. And it seems like, you know, just experientially, I can only say experientially, that is probably what's meant by like emptiness as form, you know, because it's like the emptiness permeates all of it. It is all of it. It's behind all of it. It's behind all the fireworks of the mind and the thoughts, the fireworks of the sensations in the body, the fireworks of the visual field, the fireworks of the auditory field, the senses. And so it's just like, it's not even, I wouldn't even say it's a practice. It just started happening naturally. And I can't say that like I did anything for that emptiness to really finally open experientially. It was grace, you know, grace of life. And there was just something that opened, and it was kind of it was really just a defeat in myself. And there was finally just this thing in me that was, okay, I'm ready to see myself completely clearly. But what I didn't realize was that seeing myself completely clearly meant realizing that it was not there, that it was emptiness. And so there's just been this like, this gorgeous, beautiful fascination in me, or just like this beingness of just, even in moments when there's chaos, like my dog is acting a fool over there, and just standing 2 feet on the earth, just feeling the feet and just sensing the silence, like seeing, hearing the silence with all the senses, feeling the emptiness. And it's so gorgeous and so beautiful. So if you haven't gotten to a point yet of that, you know, of just like that actual like lived day-to-day experience, like there's probably still some conceptual understanding clinging that I know something, but like this process is just like, it's having such a depth of honesty with oneself, like in a way for me that was so surprising that I never would have known. And it's like, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know our own arrogance. We can't know it, you know. It's just having such a deep honesty and just admitting, being able to just humbly admit that I don't know that. I don't know that experience. I don't know what it means to be empty. I don't know what it means that emptiness is form. Like, I think I know. I have an idea. There's an idea here, but I don't feel it. I don't sense it with my whole being. And that's the difference. It's like, the word grok. I love that word. Like, grok it. Like the way that you feel gravity, the way that you know that you exist. It's like that kind of knowing, like in every cell in your whole being. And it's having the willingness to admit that you don't know, that maybe you've been deluding yourself, that there's delusion and illusion, and that you were wrong, that you were arrogant, that all of these concepts and things that you've been grasping to are ideas, and that's not it. It's a distraction. It's fireworks. It's fireworks in the sky. But when you're paying attention to the fireworks, you miss the sky. Like the visual field is fireworks, the thoughts are fireworks, everything is fireworks. Distracting from the empty sky. But the empty sky is what all this is pointing back to. There's so many butterflies lately, I love it. So beautiful. What a beautiful day. Just come back to emptiness over and over and over. And in all likelihood, it'll start to happen naturally. It's not something that needs to be forced. If there's a practice that there's a lot of effort happening, then that's likely a movement of ego trying to achieve something, which is not bad, you know, because I think there's like deep lessons and all that stuff. But I guess just in retrospect, I can only say that those types of things were not really necessary. It was almost, the image that I like to use, and it just cracks me up, is like a toddler sitting in a car seat in the back of the car with a toy steering wheel, thinking that they're steering the car. but the steering wheel is a toy steering wheel, and they're sitting in the back seat, like they're not actually driving. That's the movement of that efforting. That's what that is. That's what that feels like here now. But it's necessary. It's like a part of it. It's such a deep learning experience, you know, going through that and then looking back and realizing and having to admit, like, oh, here's an opportunity to admit that I didn't know, to admit that I was wrong, to admit that I was arrogant. You know. come back to emptiness. Emptiness is very full. It's very beautiful. It's very, it's just wonderful. It's, the word that comes to mind is repose. Such deep repose, the deepest repose, to rest there in the midst of movement, in the midst of the world, in the midst of thought and sensation.